Hey everybody, how you all doing? I hope you're doing well. My name's Matthew, and I post videos every Monday and Friday. So if you love the tingles, then hit that subscribe button because you are in the right place. So, how is everyone doing? I'm doing the holding the microphone kind of thing. I do not. I've got less than 30 minutes to record this video. In my last video, I was that was uploaded. I was in Stockholm at the time, so yeah, I flew home from Stockholm on Saturday, but I was staying with a friend and came home late last night, and I just was so tired. So much had gone on that I didn't record a video, and yeah, my train leaves at 3. I need to leave just before 2. I'm running out of time. But that's me. That's some poor time management. But I didn't want to not post a video today, so I am making this video for you guys. And yeah, I had an amazing time in Stockholm. Absolutely loved it. I can't wait to go back. I fell in love with Stockholm. Beautiful weather. We got so lucky with the weather, and it's just a beautiful city, and I want to go back and explore more. Anyway, today's video we're going to be looking at Nona Dirksmeyer. I think that's how you pronounce it, Dirksmeyer case. I've had a quick flick through this case, and it was kindly suggested to me. I'm so unprepared. I don't like not being. I don't like being this unprepared. The lovely Kaylee suggested this case, and it was an interesting case from what I started reading. So let's get into the case. Okay. The 15th of December 2005, 19-year-old Nona was home alone in her apartment in Russellville, Arkansas, United States. She had plans for later that day. She helped out with an organisation called Big Sisters, and she was due to meet up with a young girl who she had been partnered with to mentor. Nona was the perfect person to volunteer with Big Sisters. As a child, it was reported that she had been sexually abused, and she wanted to ensure that other children could enjoy their childhood and have someone to talk to if they needed to. She was the reigning Miss Petite Jean Valley and took part in beauty pageants so that she could raise awareness of child abuse. Oh, she was a stunning woman. She was a student at Arkansas Tech University when her mother, Carol, married Dwayne Tippett. Nona decided to get her own apartment as she didn't like some of the strict rules her stepfather had. Nona was in a relationship with Kevin Jones. They attended different universities, but Kevin visited Nona whenever he had time off. So when Kevin had some time off for Christmas in December, he stopped off to see Nona on his way home to Dover. Dover is around 20 miles away from Russellville. On the 14th of December, he met up with Nona and then drove home to Dover just after midnight. Kevin knew that Nona had plans for the next day. Kevin knew that Nona had plans for the next day, the 15th of December. She had told him about the Big Sisters organisation. He had also had plans. He told his mother Janice, who was a school librarian, that he would take her to the teachers' Christmas party, but when they were on their way to the party, Kevin told Janice that he was a little worried about Nona, as she didn't respond to any of his calls that afternoon. He asked a friend Ryan to check in on Nona, as he worked close to her apartment. Ryan told him that her upstairs light was on, but there was no answer when he knocked on the door. So Kevin told Ryan that he would meet him there. When Kevin arrived at Nona's apartment with his mother, he saw Ryan outside. They knocked on Nona's door multiple times, but there was no answer. Even though Kevin had a key for Nona's apartment, he didn't have it on him, so he went around to the back of the apartment to see if the sliding door was open. It was. Nona was naked, lying on the floor in a pool of blood inside the apartment. Kevin ran straight over to her and held her close as Janice called 911. There was blood on Nona's face and her eyes were closed. She was non-responsive. When the police arrived, they confirmed Nona was dead. She had been beaten to death and hit on the back of the head. Police believed that she was hit with the base of a lamp that was close to her body. Her throat had been cut. There was a condom wrapper on the counter inside the apartment, and Nona was naked except for a pair of white socks. Despite how it looked, there was no physical evidence that she had been raped. Police questioned Kevin in relation to Nona's death. He had denied being involved and agreed to take a polygraph test. When they asked him to, he was informed that he had failed badly, and they told him they knew he killed Nona. Kevin repeatedly denied being involved. He told police that he last saw Nona the night before and called her when he got back to Dover. He said that he woke up late the next morning, turned his phone on and saw Nona had sent him a text message. "Good morning, Cuddle Muffin. I love you and I hope you have a great day." Kevin tried to contact Nona a number of times that day and sent her a text message which read, "You alive?" Even though police believed Kevin was responsible, the murder investigation led by Mark Frost took a number of months. He wasn't arrested and charged with first-degree murder until the 31st of March 2006. During that period from Nona's death to Kevin's arrest, there were many rumours going around town. Police told Nona's mother Carol, who at one time loved Kevin, that Kevin was the one responsible for Nona's death. They told her that he was a narcissist and became enraged and killed her when he entered the apartment, saw the condom wrapper and believed that Nona had been with another man. They believed that he staged the crime scene and made sure he wasn't alone when Nona's body was found. Before the trial, the defence requested a change of venue as everyone was talking about their suspicions and rumours, and the defence believed Kevin would not get a fair trial. Their request was granted and the trial began in Ozark, nearly 30 miles from Russellville. It was the prosecution's case that Kevin entered Nona's apartment the morning of the 15th of December. Nona was not expecting him. Kevin had a key. They believed he travelled back from Dover that morning to see Nona at around 10:30 a.m. A plumber saw him at his house in Dover just before 10:30 a.m. and police believe that he left around that time to travel to Russellville. His cell phone was switched off for the next hour and a half. It was their case that he arrived at Nona's apartment at 10:55 a.m. It was their case that he discovered that Nona had been with another man. They believed he may have either found the used condom on the counter or read a text message on her phone, and as a result, in a fit of jealousy, became so enraged that he beat her, stabbed her, and struck her over the head with the base of the lamp. Nona was hit so hard on the face that there was bruising on her brain. She was then stabbed repeatedly, her neck was cut, and there was a number of shallow cuts around her neck and shoulder. She was strangled with such force that the hyoid bone in her neck broke and was smacked over the head with the base of a lamp. The prosecution told the court they believed Kevin staged the scene and killed Nona. According to the prosecution's timeline, they said that Kevin left Nona's apartment at 11:15 a.m, drove back to Dover. He would have been in Dover around noon. He was seen at the Bayou Bridge Cafe around 12:30 or 1 p.m. The court heard that Kevin left a perfectly identical palm print in Nona's blood on the lamp. The palm print was found on the bulb. It was the prosecution's case that Kevin then planned that he would be present when Nona's body was found, so he could intentionally contaminate the crime scene. The prosecution argued that that was why Kevin held Nona that evening when he entered the apartment with Janice and Ryan. It was the defence's case that Kevin did not kill Nona, and the police did not investigate properly and did not collect and examine all the evidence. Instead, they argued that they just focused on one person only from the very moment Nona's body was found, and that person was Kevin. The court heard that apart from Kevin, Janice and Ryan entering the apartment, a number of paramedics and police walked around the crime scene, and some of the evidence was touched and moved. Furthermore, only one area was fingerprinted, the area where Nona's body was found. This was despite the fact there was blood beside the door and on the blinds, and the condom wrapper was not tested for fingerprints either. In relation to Kevin's palm print on the lamp, the same lamp that police said was the murder weapon, the defence argued that the palm print on the bulb could have happened when Kevin found Nona's body. Fingerprints were found on the base of the lamp too, and they were not Kevin's prints. They belonged to an unidentified person. Nona's phone was found inside the apartment, and yet even though the battery had been removed and was missing, the phone was not tested for fingerprints or DNA. It was the defence's case that Kevin could not have been at Nona's apartment at the time of prosecution, and the time prosecution said that he was. They called Kevin's grandmother to testify. She said that she saw him that day at the family gas station in Dover, the 15th of December at 11:30 a.m. that morning. She remembered it well as she gave him lunch money. If that testimony was correct, that meant Kevin would have not had time to drive from Nona's apartment. The defence told the jury that the killer would have had a number of cuts and bruises on their hands and body after beating Nona. Police took photographs of Kevin's front and back of his hands, and his body, when they spoke to him on the 15th of December, and there were no bruises, scratches or any abrasions to his body. The court heard that Kevin had failed the polygraph test, but the defence argued that the person who administered the test wasn't a certified polygraph examiner, and that it was a tactic used by police to try to force Kevin into confessing. Kevin was found not guilty of first-degree murder. It was the decision that devastated those who loved Nona and who believed that Kevin was responsible. But if some thought that was the end of the matter, they were very much mistaken. It was the beginning. It emerged that working under Police Chief James Bacon, Officer Mark Forrest, who investigated Nona's murder, had suspected another man at the same time that they were investigating Kevin. The man was Gary Dunn. Gary was a parolee who lived across the street from Nona. Mark gave a report to the state prosecutor at the time. The report outlined that Kevin failed a polygraph test and Gary had passed his one. The report stated that Gary had an alibi. He had been shopping with his mother at the time Nona was killed, and that was backed up by bank records, which confirmed where his mother was on the 15th of December. But a bank employee later told him that the records may not be accurate. The bank records were not included in his report to the prosecutor. After Kevin was found guilty, Gary was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The prosecution argued that he either raped or tried to rape Nona before beating her to death. The court heard that the condom wrapper was later tested for DNA, and it matched Gary's DNA. It wasn't Gary's first time in court. In a 2002 case, he was charged with attempted murder and second-degree battery after he attacked a female jogger on the Bona D trials in Russellville. He was acquitted on the attempted murder charge, but convicted of the second-degree battery charge and sentenced to 6 years in prison. At Gary's trial in relation to Nona's murder, the jogger that Gary had attacked testified. She told the jury that she was jogging on a trail and saw Gary sitting on a bench in 2002. The bench was beside the trail. The jogger testified that I ran past him, then the trail then curved to the right. I heard footsteps running swiftly behind me. I turned to look and see who was coming. The jogger saw Gary. He was chasing her with a tree branch. It was more than 2 feet long. Gary caught her and hit her over the head with the tree branch. She fell to the ground, and as she lay on the ground, he began to beat her with his fist. He struck her face, chest and ribs multiple times and repeatedly told her, I'm going to effing kill you. The jogger managed to fight him off, and she got up and ran back to her car. Oh my God. Thank God. She looked back and saw Gary running in the opposite direction. It was the defence's case that, despite Kevin's acquittal, that Kevin was the one who killed Nona and then contaminated the crime scene intentionally. Kevin was called to testify at Gary's trial and told the court, I remember picking her up and thinking I could take her to the hospital. I climbed on top of her and picked her arms up to me, and I just sat there and prayed and hoped the worst wasn't happening. The defence argued that his motives for touching Nona were not altruistic. Instead, they argued that he intentionally contaminated the crime scene to cover up his track. The defence lawyer Bill James asked him, wasn't it obvious she was dead? Kevin responded with, I'd never seen a dead body before. Bill argued that Nona was seeing other men the weeks before she was killed, and when questioning Kevin, he said, she disrespected you, didn't she? But Kevin argued that that was irrelevant because I don't know about it. I didn't know about it at the time of Nona's death. The defence questioned the DNA evidence also. Prosecutors argued that Gary was linked to the crime scene from DNA found on the condom wrapper, but the defence disputed it was a match and argued the evidence could have not been trusted due to how the evidence was collected and how the crime scene had been contaminated. They also argued that there was no evidence that Nona had been sexually assaulted. Well, regardless, she was very much physically assaulted. Gary's trial ended with a deadlocked jury. They could not decide whether he was guilty or not. A second trial took place, but the result was the same. Okay, the jury could not make a decision based on the evidence before them. Prosecutors planned to try Gary for a third time, but they decided not to at a later date and asked a judge to dismiss the charges against him. The charges can be refiled at a later date. After the two trials ended in deadlock, Gary was a free man, but it wasn't long before he came to the attention of the police again in December 2018, where called to a parking lot of the First Baptist Church in the 200 block of South Denver Avenue in Russellville to investigate a possible kidnapping attempt. When they got there, a 40-year-old woman and a witness provided a description of the man and the vehicle he was driving. The 40-year-old woman told police that a man approached her in the parking lot and tried to force her into a vehicle. She managed to get away and he left in his car. At the same time, police were looking into another possible attempted kidnapping. The other one took place on the campus of the Arkansas Tech University. A woman said that a man asked her to step out of her vehicle. He left when she called 911. The woman in the two incidents described the man and the car he was driving, and the descriptions of both were very similar. Police stopped a car that matched the description, and the driver was Gary Dunn. No way. Gary pleaded no contest to the charges of attempted kidnapping and indecent exposure, and he was sentenced to 15 years of prison. To date, nobody has been convicted in the relation of the death of Nona Dirksmeyer. I mean, it's obvious it's Gary Dunn, right? Like, if his evidence, DNA was on the condom wrapper, how would that have gone to her apartment? It was obvious. He's got to be the one to have killed her, right? I can see, like, from the perspective of the police of, like, Kevin contaminated the crime scene, but then how would Gary's evidence have got into the apartment? I mean, regardless of how it's collected, his DNA wouldn't have just turned up magically, would it? So, I think it's on Gary. What are your guys' thoughts on this case? This case actually had a lot more twists and turns than I was expecting, because I only started reading a little bit of the case last night, and I was intrigued, but reading it now, like, fully, there are so many twists and turns, and I can't believe the jury was deadlocked twice. That's crazy. They must have been very good lawyers, because it's a very hard one to have not been made obvious. I mean, if he was the one to do it, I mean, he's in prison for 15 years. I mean, he hasn't really got justice for what he did, but he is in the right place. But then what happens when he's released in those, well, it might not even be there for 15 years. So, I don't know. Scary. And if he does get out, he's going to go do it again, isn't he? He will do something. He wasn't stopped before, so what's going to stop him again? And it's going to be tragic, because someone hopefully they will figure out that he was the one who killed Nona, and that he will face justice for that too. And Nona's family will get the closure they deserve and the answers that they need. I want to thank you again. I don't want to. I want to thank Kaylee again for the suggestion, because I think this is a terrific case and technically unsolved. So thank you for this suggestion. I really enjoyed it. I hope you found this video to be super relaxing. And if you guys have any other suggestions of cases you would like to hear, then don't hesitate to leave them in the comments below. And I am going to go, and I shall see you in next week's video. I'll see you in Friday's video. Bye guys.